Welcome back to the channel, good people. Today we're going to do another review, but this time it's going to be the TCL 20XE, which was recently released under Metro by T-Mobile. You can find this phone for, I believe, about $159 regular price, but I got this for the new line, which the phone is free. You just pay for your first month for service. There's any taxes. So without further ado, let's get into the drop and drop right into the video. First things first, let's show you what actually comes inside of this box. Right here, we're going to get the TCL 20XE. Didn't do much with this phone, honestly. Didn't really set up any accounts on it. Now, granted, by the time I'm doing this review, I will have basically all the categories already sorted out for you guys for this video, especially when it comes to gaming, amongst other things, because this is a much lower end phone than what you're probably used to. I wouldn't really put it in the category of the N200. It's a little bit lower than that, but again, it really depends on software and how well it actually runs. Anyway, this first part of this video is going to be about the design itself. Now, you are getting plastic sides, plastic all around the phone. You zoom in so you can actually see that. Right here, it does show your IMEI number right here on the back, so just be careful of that, especially if you have a phone that's no account on it. People can see your IMEI number, and that could cause some issues for you. But this does have a actual phone number on it, so I shouldn't have that issue. First, let's see what comes inside the box, and we'll just hop into how the phone itself actually looks. So right here, this does have 18-watt fast charging. And if you hear that noise, that's my wife back there dancing to some show. So yeah, she's loud. So let's see here. I want to take this out the box. Just want to double check and make sure this phone is capable of 18-watt fast charging, in case you were wondering. I will talk a little bit about that when we get back to the battery. But let me take a look right here. Give me a moment. Let's see. So yes, 18 watts, that's what this thing is capable of. You do have your charger right here, so it's going to be USB-C to USB-A, which USB-A is basically this cord right here. So it's not USB-C to USB-C, which is perfectly fine. If you're unfamiliar with TCL, I forget the exact, I'm not going to say they're owners of Alcatel. I think they are, or they distribute, or however it goes. They're the ones that, when you see those Rebel phones within the last recent year or so, they're the ones that have been releasing this phone. I'm guessing that TCL probably wants to actually branch out on their own and not have to worry about the Rebel. I'm guessing that's what's going to happen now, because this is the first time I've seen the TCL phones in the States that's under a carrier. Now, you might see them in the States, especially the United States where I live, but actually finding them under a carrier, this is actually the first time, and it looks like Metro actually picked that up. Not sure if T-Mobile is going to get it themselves. So anywho, back to the design. USB-C at the bottom. You have your speakers down here. Like most of the Android phones that come out now, you have your power button, your volume up, your volume down, all on the right-hand side. So this left side is actually clean. And the only thing that you'll see here, excuse the lighting, is basically the SIM card tray, which you are able to take an SD card inside of this thing. Headphone jack is up the top. So for those that are used to the headphone jack on the bottom, unfortunately, you're not going to get that right here. But that's everything that basically comes in the box. Now, if we're just looking at the design, the physical design of the phone, I do like that. I like the way the shape is. It's a thick, candy bars-like type phone, where when you hold it in your hand, a lot of times with these flagships, they feel so slippery. It's like it's necessary to have a case on it, which you should if you're trying to protect your device. But given this type of shiny plastic, because it's not glass, it is plastic. What I will say is that this actually feels. Let me do a little test. It doesn't. Put it this way, at first glance, it feels very, very sturdy because of the weight. But once you press on the back, you can feel that it is pretty much a cheap phone, but not cheap enough where I just recently did a review on that Motorola. And if we're just talking about the feeling of the phone, this feels much better than that Motorola phone that I just had, the G Pure. Though I will say that this is similar in categories to that phone. We're going to do some stress tests, play some games, see how well it runs, see how if it gets warm, amongst other things. But honestly, it's the typical basic Android that you always see, with the huge chin on the bottom, the forehead with the teardrop. I can't stand that teardrop notch, but it's there. One thing they did do is your battery meter comes standard like this on the right hand side. So that's a cool feature. Also, if you go to your applications, you just swipe through a few things, you still have that background. So I don't know if this has something to do with whatever. It's using Android 11, but you know how each company has their own UI of how the Androids work, even though they all have the App Store. But anywho, I rambled on enough. Let's go ahead and hop on to the next category. So in this part of the video, let's pretty much break down the battery life. Now I'm going to give you a little bit of specifications of what the website says, and then I'm going to give you a real life estimate of how well this battery lasts. Now, first things first, this does support fast charging. It actually supports 18 watt fast charging, which is similar to the Revel V Plus. I think it's called the V Plus 5G. If you've noticed looking at this phone, it almost has the same camera module as that. You may say, well, why is that? Why is the design so similar? Well, Alcatel is the Revel model, and over the years it was rebranded. I could be wrong about that in terms of who they're owned by now, but TCL does release the Alcatel Rebel devices, which I don't think they go by a Revel Alcatel anymore. It's just the Revel, which was rebranded under the T-Mobile as the Revel devices. And right here, this is, I guess, the parent company, if you want to call it that. It's a lot of sub companies inside of other companies in their own, and it's just a lot. Anyway, that's not what this video is about. That's why this phone looks extremely similar to that particular device. Now, what I will say is that this has the, like I said, fast charging. Unfortunately, it does take 2.5 hours for this phone to actually fully charge from 0% all the way to 100. So for those that are used to the OnePlus 30 watt charging where you can get 30 minutes, 70%, or, you know, a higher end device where you're doing the 8T, which you can charge, I think, about 37, 40 minutes tops from 0 to 100. Remember, people like you aren't coming to this particular device. If you're jumping to this, you might be coming from the Revel 4, or you might be coming from the A01 or A02 or the A10e, certain phones in a certain category, and you're just looking to upgrade because that one, Android, is too old. Remember, this isn't for people that have phones that are 6 gigs of RAM, Snapdragon 750. It's not for you. It's for an entirely different audience. So don't be surprised when you see the specs or certain applications don't work. Now, they claim, remember, they claim with mixed usage up to 22 hours, talk time 27 hours but under 4G, 46 hours under 3G, absolute lie, in case you're wondering, standby time up to 29 days in 4G and 33.7 days in 3G. Now you may say, who is using 3G? Well, you have to remember that in the settings of these devices, which actually, matter of fact, since we're here, I'll show you. That's my my niece and my wife in the other room. Anyway, I don't want to do this video over again. Right here, if we go to the settings, let's see if I can find it for you. Here we are. If we go to the settings and go to mobile data, you do actually have the option to switch between LG, 3G, 2G only. So that's what they're talking about when it's in a particular network where you can keep it that way. Now, as you can see, I'm will say that now this phone is not 5G capable. I was going to save that for later, but that's fine. I'll just throw it in the battery section of this video. 9 volts, 2 amps is the charger that you're getting. That's why it says 19. If you do the times, that's where you get 18. I think I said 19 by mistake, but that's where you get 18 fast charging right there. Yeah, and the battery's 5,000. I think I said that in the beginning of the video. Well, beginning of this section. They're throwing me off in the other room, but I won't keep this video as authentic as possible. So that is the battery life. Now, granted, if you're using talk time, music, video, things like that, I give this between 6 to 8 hours of just on-screen time, of actual on-screen using it, because no phone lasts for 10, 12 hours talking unless it's a more higher-end device. And a lot of times those don't last that long unless you talk from beginning to end. So that's about it. So let's go to the next section. So let's talk about the screen resolution and is it actually decent? Now, granted, this phone, first let's go over the specifications, and I'll tell you something that's a little bit surprising about this particular screen. It's not enough to convince someone that's used to higher end phones or even in the mid-tier market, but it might convince someone that it's coming from a Revel 4 Plus, coming from a Samsung A02, a A10e, because not everybody upgrades their phones every year. Sometimes people keep phones that are a couple years old, and that's one of the reasons why you do want to upgrade, because of the Android software and not necessarily the processor. Well, for the average user, remember, for the average user. So anywho, what we have right here is 2.5D front glass. So for those that are wondering, what are you talking about? If you ever do a scratch test on a device like this, there's actually, and correct me if I'm wrong, but there's actually a tool that you can use that determines how thick the glass is and just the quality of the glass itself on your screen. Now, granted, I believe that everyone should have a tempered glass on their phone. That should be the industry standard. No matter your phone costs $1 to $1 million, you should always have a tempered glass on your screen. But there is a way to determine how thick your glass is or how much damage it could take. I'm not that, look, go to Jerry Rig for everything. I believe that's the channel. I don't do that over here. Every phone I get, I pretty much buy, so I have to be careful about what I'm damaging. But anyway, the PPI for this is 268. HD plus screen. That's one of the reasons why this actually surprisingly looks very clear, especially when I angle it a certain way, so you can see it better on my camera, because I'm recording on an actual phone, so it doesn't get the best picture. You know, it's an A52 5G, so take that with a grain of salt. It is good in good lighting, but in low lighting like this, you know, it's okay. 720 by 1600. It is an LCD screen. It has a V-notch display at 6.5 or 6.52, but we're just going to say 6.5 inches. That's what it is. Unfortunately, like I said earlier, it has that hideous chin right here, which should be lower. If the chin was lowered, this phone would be easily 6.7, 6.8, but that's fine. You got to remember, we came a long way over the years when it comes to devices. So again, excuse me, we're not in this section of design, but it is pretty decent for the price. 88% screen to body ratio, or to be specific, 88.55 screen to body ratio. 450 nits for those that are about the brightness. So don't compare this to a Galaxy Note, Galaxy Note 10, Galaxy Note 20, Galaxy Note 21. Don't even compare this to an A52 like what I'm currently using. This is, without a doubt, a low-end phone with a very basic screen. I will say that, surprisingly, with the Android software, when you swipe up, you still see the background. It looks very, very clean. Just initially turning this phone on and using it, the interface seems very clean. It's minimal lag when you first turn on this device. A lot of Androids have that issue, especially in the mid-tier and low-tier market, which some reviewers don't say, is that it's very unstable and you need to just wait a few minutes to load up the system. Download your applications might be slow. It might force close some applications, but once all the updates are done, the phone normally runs pretty smoothly. Now, I will say with this particular device compared to the Moto G Pure, which was in my last video, that this has a much more stable version of Android in my opinion, on a simple fact that the moment I turn this phone on, the moment I swipe, go to certain pages, it worked right away. I didn't have any issues. So far, so good. But again, it's only 720p, so, you know, if you want a higher end screen, it's not happening over here. So the next section of the video, well, this is going to be about the processing power and the chip and the RAM. Oh, and internal memory. Let's not forget that part. So let's get the easy stuff out of the way. 32 gigs internally. Let me just verify that. Personally, I don't know why this phone is only 32 gigs. As you already know, you get about 21 gigs available. Some are worse. LG used to give you less space than that, and this is exactly why they don't make smartphones anymore. They had no idea what they were doing when it came to that. Or the usability, they just didn't care. But LG's a dead company. Let's not talk about them. Let's talk about someone that's actually making phones. So you get about 21.86 gigs usable. Close to 22 gigs. Let's just round it off to 22. What else do we have here? 4 gigs of RAM. Almost forgot what I was talking about. You get 4 gigs of RAM inside of this phone. This is the part that gets a little tricky, which is surprising. This has a MediaTek P22 in it. And as for the processor, octa-core processor, LTE Cat 7, here's the part you need to know about, 2.0 gigahertz. So again, if you're trying to do multitasking on this phone, it's possible. If you're doing YouTube videos, you're a new YouTuber, it's possible. If you're editing certain things, it's possible with certain applications, but it's not something that I would necessarily suggest. There are better phones out there for slightly more that you can get. And what I mean by that is, and even though this isn't the section we should be talking about this in, if you're porting, I'll explain this later. Do not get this device if you're actually porting from a different carrier. It is not worth it. Anyway, that's that section. Let's talk about the next part. Let's talk about the camera now. So let's get let's get the front camera out of the way first. What are we looking at? 5 megapixels. That's it. You do have an LCD flash on the front, so it is possible to get a clearer picture. No, though, you're not going to really get some type of night mode. You're not going to get a great quality picture out of that. I'm just going to tell you the specs, and then we're actually going to show you the camera. I'm going to actually show you the camera right here. I'm not going to cut away. I'm just going to show it to you because it's nothing out of the ordinary. It's just a basic generic camera that they normally give most of these Android devices. I wouldn't be surprised if they all use the same manufacturer at this point. But anywho, the front camera, like I said, that was the specs for that one right there. The front camera could also record in 1080p, but only 30 frames. So if you're expecting to get higher, it's not really possible. So let's go through it right here. Let's use the front camera, as you can see it right here. Let me see. Let me go into the settings. It's a little hard to see. And give you the options. So here are the options for the camera right here. 5 megapixels for right here, and it just gives you different orientations of that. I doubt anyone will want to use 1 megapixel. That's just insane. Everything's 30 frames. So you get 720p, 480p, and also 1080p. Everything's 30 frames. Some phones do give you like 60 frames, but this particular one doesn't for the front camera. Now, with that being said, let's go to the back camera and let's talk specs on that guy. Now for the front camera, I'm sorry, for the back camera, the main camera, makes more sense for me to say that. 13 megapixel, which is the top lens that you get right here. You're getting a 2 macro, and you're getting a 2 depth, I'm sorry, about to call it depth sensor, depth camera. Then you're also getting the LED flash, which is right here. Hopefully my hand was in the right spot, but it's going down the line for the specifications that I'm giving you. Now the 13 is higher resolution. What I'm going to go ahead and do here is go through the settings so you can see that. This also only does 1080p, 720, 480, and 30 frames, even though it's the front of the camera. You do have the option to change between 13, 10 megapixels, 9, and 8, which is full screen. I would say stick to 13 to get the best camera, especially in different lighting situations. You have a few little AI settings, color detection, which most phones have that, but it's optional. Personally, I turn off the volume of the shutter. I hate that noise right here. Save location. If you're using an SD card, you have the option between saving it to the internal storage right here, or this will highlight when you have the option to switch it, the internal storage, and it'll actually jump to, what's it called? That's funny. Actually, let me say something else. It's funny in this video, it just looks blue, but in reality, when I'm looking at the screen myself, it actually looks white. But you know, whatever. It's probably because of the glare of the camera. I'm not too sure, but I'm switching it around and it still looks blue. So that's odd. Anywho, let's take a look at the camera. This is how it looks. I'm looking at this in real time. Now, granted that because this is a camera through a camera, you're not going to get a solid photo. But I'm literally looking at this camera right now. This is why I have this computer, so you can see the buttons. It's not clear at all from this distance. I have to literally push it forward just to be able to see those buttons clearly. Now, you won't really be able to see them on the simple fact that I have lighting bearing down over me, so it's not the best comparison. But it just goes to show, if the thing is in low lighting at all, it performs horribly. Outside during the day, you might get a little bit better resolution. But if you're a camera buff, do not get this phone for that reason. You're either getting it for yourself because you just want to get through the day, get through the year. You're not really a big app user, or you use minimal apps. If you're multitasking and doing more, this camera isn't good enough for you. Sure, you have your portrait modes. Sure, you have your... Actually, you know what? Let me check to see if this thing has a pro mode. It does not. Oh, it does. It does have a pro mode. Get out of here. Okay. Got a pro mode. You can do some changes, but the camera still sucks. So no matter how you look at this video, if you're getting this because you think it's going to have a decent camera, granted, if you're coming from an A10e or certain phones, sure, you'll get a better camera out of this phone, depending on the lighting that you're in. Because they're even though I believe the A10e was like a 8 megapixel camera, this is 13. But don't let the numbers fool you. What actually matters when it comes to these phones is how well they perform in different settings. For instance, if I put this over here, you see how laggy it is when it moves around. It's not very good at all. You can barely even see the camera buttons because of the glare. This isn't a good camera. Look at the Keurig up here. I mean, the picture looks better over here because you're looking at, you know what? It's actually funny. I did not take the phone with me, so let me do this. So like, it takes a picture of the Keurig right here. So it's not horrible or anything like that, but it's kind of horrible. To be honest, to the average user, it's going to be perfectly fine. But to someone that's used to taking photos, photobombing, selfies, things like that, you're not going to like this camera at all. So just be aware of that. Okay, so in this section, it said it already for you, but I'll just say it anyway for those that didn't pay attention. This is the sound of the speaker. Let me get this thing to drop the beat real fast for you guys so you can hear it better. Okay, so surprisingly, let me play that, just put it down while I'm talking. Surprisingly, I did have to talk a little bit louder and turn the volume down. It has decent volume for a phone that's $159. I'll tell you that. It was louder than a Moto G Pure. Next to each other, it had a better bottom speaker when it comes to how loud the music can get. But it did sound a little, it does start, as you turn the speaker up, it does start to distort. And it gave me, I wouldn't say it gave me a headache, but it just sounded like really choppity. I don't even know what word to use for that. But if you're playing something out loud, rap music, certain things, you are certainly going to be able to hear it in a room by yourself with no problem. I don't know anybody that does that. We live in a time where we have headphones and Bluetooths. But for if any reason you're decided to listen to something like an instructional video, because that does happen, you might want to put your phone to the side. You might be on the computer and you're doing things at the same time. You can hear it clearly. It doesn't sound bad. Now, granted, I have done other tests with the sound. I just have to tell you because of YouTube policies, I can't just go around just playing anything out loud. So you guys can just, you know, take what I'm saying and kind of just determine. Again, $159 phone total without an upgrade. Upgrade is like $89 or $90, I believe. Very cheap phone. What are you expecting? So let's just turn it up one more time so you can hear it again. That's a TikTok commercial. But anyway, the point is that it's average sound. It sounds like the typical $150 phone that you get. It's no defining speakers. You're not getting some dynamic sound. You're not going to get any major bass or anything like that on speakerphone. And in truth be told, a lot of these cheap phones, if you listen to it too loud over time, it does get distorted. And sometimes that actually can damage your speaker if you just listen to stuff all the time at its highest octave. But again, it sounds okay. It's not horrible. It sounds okay. I probably said it was horrible at some point, but it sounds okay for what I was listening to. And I have to remember, I got to take my big boy glasses off where I can't compare this to basically any mid-tier phone at all. It's not in that category. So again, for like the, I don't know, third or fourth time he's saying this in this video, this is a particular phone for those that are trying to spend little to nothing. They're getting it as a gift for someone else, or if they don't care about applications, they don't care about, they just want to have the newer software, Android 11, which 12 is the newest. But granted, this phone may get 12. I highly doubt it. More likely, it's going to just have 11 for the year. These are phones that you can just buy once a year just to keep up with the software. Hopefully, I don't foresee it having any issues in terms of text lag like a lot of phones have, but only time will tell. It hasn't been out that long for Metro by T-Mobile. It might have came out in April 2021, if I'm correct. I could be wrong about that. April or August, I think it was. I forget which month it was. But under the actual carrier, okay sound at best. All right, so in this last section of the video, like most of my videos as of recently, I'm going to talk to you guys as if I know you face to face. And I'm going to tell you whether this phone is worth purchasing. And it's yes and it's a no. And I'm going to explain both those answers right now. If we're talking about build design quality compared to some of the other phones that came out, I don't put this in the same category as the N200. I don't really put this in. Actually, you know what? To be honest, let me rephrase that. I do like the N200 better because of the Android, not the Android software, but the OnePlus software that's on it. I'm used to that. I like it. I have a backup with it. It's super convenient. What I will say about this is if we're talking about performance, I will say that the N200 is better than its phone, but it's not so drastically better where you'll say, well, this is absolute garbage. You know, people that are coming from phones that are like the A32 5G, and I'm saying, oh, that's a 5G, 3G, 4G, I mean, the Moto G stylus. Matter of fact, I can't even consciously say with a straight face that this is better than the Moto G stylus from last year that came out. Because that phone had 4 gigs of RAM, 128 gigs internally, 40 megapixel camera, all that good stuff. It just had spotty software because Motorola is very, they don't keep up on their software updates and whatnot, things like that. This device, in my opinion, just my opinion, is without a doubt better than the Moto G Pure that was recently released. There aren't really any other devices to go against it at the moment because Samsung and those other companies tend to release every year some type of low-end device for basically the same device, slightly, and I mean slightly better specifications, just to keep up with the Android software. But it still has that laggy feel. It still has that when you swipe up, when you go over, when you use multiple applications or you switch it between applications, it might take a minute to load. This phone surprisingly holds up very, very, very well. I know, you just made me to say that after what I just said. It actually holds up very well. So for those that are just looking to add a line, let's say you're going through tough times. I'm gonna give you different scenarios. You just need to add a line, you just need a free phone. This is an ideal phone to get because it still has the 18-watt fast charging. It still had the 5,000 millihertz battery. It is only a 720p screen like we talked about earlier, but it is pretty bright for 450 nits for a phone like this. And it just, even though most phones are like that in this category, the screen is clear. It doesn't look super washed out like some other devices, like some Motorola's and whatnot, because they don't have AMOLED screens or anything. They look really washed out, like someone just bleached your whites with your greens and blues, and it's like that's what you got, a washed out phone. It actually looks pretty good. Now, with that being said, if you're using applications, gaming, you're trying to play Genshin Impact and other games, I don't suggest this phone. Sure, it's possible to play it on it at the lowest possible setting with lag, but it's not ideal for you to actually use it for that. I don't suggest it. If you're able to spend a couple dollars, now if you're porting, like I said earlier in this video, or I might have had deleted it because they were running back and forth inside the house, so I had to keep recording video over and over again. The A52 5G for a port is $99. You get a 120 hertz screen. You're getting a 128 gigs internally, 6 gigs of RAM. I think it's a Snapdragon 750. It's not a 765, I don't think. I believe it's a 750. But anyway, the point is that you're getting a much better phone for a port. If you're porting from an AT&T, from a Verizon, I would have said Sprint, but they're owned by T-Mobile now, so I don't think that really counts for you. Like a Boost Mobile, you will get the opportunity to get a good phone initially when you port. The problem with this one is that this phone is free. This phone, if you do an add-a-line, if you do a new account, you're not paying for the phone, you're just paying for the first month and any amenities like insurance or anything like that on the device. If you're the type of person where you walk into the store and you take the suggestion of the clerk, be careful because a lot of these sellers will just put you in anything just to get you out the door and to get a sell. And with that being said, Metro has a policy where every 6 months you get discounted pricing for upgrades, though upgrade pricing is way more expensive than new line pricing to try to get customers to come on and over. So just be careful about what you get. I will always suggest other phones, but if we're talking about the low tier category of phones, it's not the worst thing that I've seen. Trust me, I've had some bad phones. Like I tried to say something about that Moto G Pure. It's disgusting. That phone was horrible. This is better than that, but not that much better, if you know what I mean. It's like, yes, it's better, but it's still in that dirt category of phones where, yeah, we're all still in the mud. I just might be closer to getting out, but I'm still with you in the trenches, if that makes sense. So, again, yes, if you're looking to get someone a phone, a kid that just needs something to use for emergency purposes, go on the web, play Facebook games, silly stuff like that, yeah, it's possible. But I'm always going to suggest you to go a different route. Even an A32 is more ideal than this because of the processor. I think it's a Snapdragon, I want to say 750 with 4 gigs of RAM. I could be wrong, but it's one of them processors. But it runs better than this. Anywho, that is a video. like, subscribe. I'm pretty sure I probably forgot a couple things I wanted to talk about this, but I didn't want to just dog out a product like it's nothing. It still works. And the fact that you can get us, and this cat is over here. Let me show you guys. That's Luna right there. Hey, Luna. All right. Anyhow, back to the video. Like, subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next one. I am going to have this phone for a little while, so if you have any questions in the comment section, like me hooking it up to a TV, if it's possible, is it compatible, blah blah blah, does this game work, does that game work, does NBA Live work, let me know. I'll try it out. I'll download the application. Just keep in mind you only get 21.800 and something megabytes, or let's just say round it off, 22 gigs out of the phone internal memory. And unless you have a memory card for pictures or videos, you're taking up a lot of your space. See you guys in the next one.